Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind Podcast. This episode is with John Flagg. John is a powerlifter. He's a powerlifting coach. He is an entrepreneur. He is a clinician. Me and John had a great discussion about his book, Foundational Strength, right here. We also talked about the need for a book that lays things out very simply and pragmatically for somebody who could literally just be walking off the street and trying to learn to train. But it also is a really good refresher of the fundamentals for people who are more experienced with barbell oriented training. We also talked about John's training and lifting journey, mindset, and approaching training from the stance of what I would call optimism. We touched on a lot of really fun topics, and this was a great conversation for people who are into training and powerlifting, people who are clinicians, or just anybody who wants to learn to get strong. I really hope you enjoy it. You can find John at john.rebuild_stronger on Instagram. If you just Google John Flagg, his Instagram will pop up. That's a good way to find him. I will link the links to the book in the show notes. Go check out the book. It's an awesome read. Very well done. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks so much for being here. Peace. All right. John Flagg, Rebuild Stronger. John's a buddy of mine. I talk to John pretty much every day.
At this point, yeah.
But we're gonna talk about foundational strength today. And the big piece that I want to touch on first is just what is foundational strength to you and why is it so important? And then how did this book come out of you? It's like my big question.
Well, it all honestly started with a question. I got hit up by a mutual friend of Quinn Hennick's and mine, Corey Van Wyk. And Corey, I had coached Corey for a long time. Him and I had talked for a long time. Actually, you remember the master class we did with Brett Bartholomew
Yeah.
back in the day? Corey worked with Brett. That's how I actually got connected with Brett. So Corey and I had known each other for a long time. He was OG when it came to the clinical athlete powerlifting course. And he hit me up and he's like, dude, there needs to be an update on like basic barbell training. And human kinetics is who I work for. I think you're the guy to do it. Interestingly enough, there was a little bit of hubbub specifically about like me because I don't have like a huge Instagram following or anything, but he fought his tail off to essentially go to the board and be like, I want this guy to do it. So we brainstormed essentially what is necessary to walk into the gym if you're brand new and figure out how to use a bar. My whole thought process behind it has always been like you and I both know the benefits of strength training, not just from the physical capacity piece of it, like strengthens bones, strengthens muscles. Like most people actually need to lift to get the body that they want, to be resilient the way they want to, and all those sorts of things. But on top of that, like the barrier of entry is actually relatively high compared to everything else. You can walk into a gym, pretty much any major gym in the country. And there's going to be a TV in front of a treadmill or in front of a bike, and it's got automated settings. Like you can just walk in and you can hit go on a treadmill and it will just go. It's got routines built into it. It will automatically bring the incline up and down, the speed up and down. It's a very simple thing to use. A barbell, most people look at it and they go, I don't know what to do with this thing. I don't know how to set up the racks. The racks are all different. The clips are all different. The like, what do I even do here? And I really wanted to start to solve that problem. So I looked at it from a complete beginner standpoint and said, okay, like let's break it down from top to bottom. And I'm talking, this is what the bar looks like. This is the
Yeah.
anatomy of a barbell. This is the anatomy of a rack. This is an anatomy of like the bench itself, adjustable benches, belts, like all the stuff. Like this is the absolute basics, the things you need to know, and literally walk people through. Okay, you walk into the gym. Here's the different types of racks that you might find and how to set up a barbell even correctly at the right height to even try to start squatting,
Hmm.
or how to set it up to even try to start bench pressing. Because machines are awesome. I think the barbell as a tool is superior to any of those things.
Yeah.
My own personal bias, okay? But I think the barbell is superior as a tool. So we went and tried to answer that question, and then I take it deeper and deeper and deeper. So it teaches you the absolute basics of essentially how to do the squat, the bench, the deadlift, and the press. And then we take it from there and we break it down even further, like how to look at your movement and make adjustments, how to look at exercise variation and exercise selection, how to program those sorts of things. And I told you this before. I think if there's one thing that I'm probably the most proud of is that it's not the back of the book is not like, here's 12 programs that I've used that I really like. It's literally like, okay, what does your life look like? How many times can
Yeah.
you train? How long
Yeah.
do you have to train? What,
Yeah.
like, what's your goal right now? And it will literally walk you through the process of creating your own program that you could go back to over and over and over again for an extended period of time. So that's what it is to me from like a tactical and logistical standpoint. Um, from a more mental standpoint, it's the framework that I've taught so many people the first time they walk into the gym for the last 20 years of how to use this stuff. And to me, strength training is this one of the single most objective things that you can do when it comes to your health and your physical capacity and of it like ability. So learning it, I think, is paramount. And I really wanted people to learn it and figure it out in as accessible a way as possible, uh, without the jargon, without all the other crap, and with somebody who actually like can say it and speak it plainly. So that's what deep down in my core we try to do with it.
Yeah. The thing that your book, as someone that's like, I've read other books about starting barbell training, or even just lifting and muscles. Like I got the what's that guy's name? Like the Anatomy of Strength Training over there with the exercises, Joe something, Joe, and like the reality is a lot of those things, like they just don't give people like confidence to some extent of like to just go start to do it. And like the number one thing that people tell me, like begin, like, well, they don't explicitly tell me, but like, yeah, just going and setting up the rack and being confident there, right? Going and be like, where do I even put, and it's still funny because you still got people who have like, you've been doing this for 5 years and you still like don't always put your eyes like on the downside of the bar or when you're bench pressing, right? Like you're still putting your eyes like right, and that's just human nature. I think humans require repetition, but they ultimately require like safety, like psychological sense of safety to do this stuff. And like a treadmill with the TV, pretty high psychological sense of safety, right? A barbell with, especially where the guy at the local YMCA that does squat more than 315 is usually an intimidating guy. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a nice guy. I just always remember there's this one guy. It was a guy and his dad, and they would come in and they would squat heavy at the Y, and like they were probably really nice. I was just afraid of them because they were actually squatting like heavy loads and like like taking up space there. Um, and I think a lot of people just they won't admit it openly, but like maybe they will. They're intimidated, right? And the barbell is not that intimidating when you realize like it can be scaled to 10 pounds, right? You can do less range of motion. You can do all these things, but like people don't know that, right? You said something along the
Can
line.
I
Go
jump
ahead.
in on that really
Yeah,
quick?
please. Please.
Like, so there's two things here, right? Number one, when people start out with something like this that is viewed as complex,
Yeah.
then they really need peanut butter and jelly type of instructions. So if the listener's like, what the hell is John talking about? You ask somebody, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And they're going to tell you take two pieces of bread, some peanut butter and jelly, smash it together. That's not how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You have to walk over to the cabinet. You have to get the bread out. right?
Yeah.
If you want to get like really deep into it, you have to open the cabinet, you have to bend over, you have to reach in, you have to find the bread, you have to pull the bread out, you got to take that stupid little twisty tie off and figure out for the next 30 seconds, is it left or right? I don't know which one it is. Like, which one is it? And you got to get a knife out. If you're not a psychopath and you like to use a spoon for the jelly like I do, then you got to get a spoon out too. Like all those things. There's so many actual steps. So when somebody walks up to a rack for the first time and they're like, "Ugh, I don't even know how this thing operates."
Yeah.
That's the first barrier.
Yep.
And there's only so much that people are going to look at something and say, "Okay, I'll figure this out."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
2 to 3 steps of like, okay, I'll figure this out. And
Yeah.
most people are going to be decision fatigued at that point. And then they're
Yeah.
also looking around, especially like you're talking about in a space that they may not be super comfortable with. And
Yeah.
you're going to look around and be like, who's watching me try to figure this out right now?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
who is trying to figure this out? But then on the flip side of that, and one of the reasons I mentioned, even just strength training in general, the complexity of progression is actually super simple. Once you figure out like the setup steps, it really is add more weight or add more reps. It
Hmm.
like from a basics standpoint. Now, we can make it more complex if we want to, but for most people, it's going to be add more weight or add more reps.
Yeah.
And if you look at a treadmill, the complexity of that and the progression of that, you could say run for longer or
Yeah.
run faster, sure. But it actually becomes they end up being the same exact thing. It's just the startup point is different. And I would argue, I do think there needs to be obviously some semblance of balance, right? Like you need a little bit of cardio, you need a little bit of strength, but you can't sacrifice, you can't not do one of them
Yeah.
because of the barrier of perceived complexity. Because in reality, like once you figure it out, you're gonna go, "Oh my gosh, this was so simple. This was so easy. I just needed somebody to show me, or I needed a thing to know what to do."
Yeah.
And that makes things so much easier.
There was, it's funny because I'm going to coach a client at a powerlifting meet, and whenever I don't lift on a combo rack, right? And so like
Mhm.
when you go and you help people set up for a you feel like an idiot for the first like 3 times you're trying to adjust the leverage and the pins, like when you haven't done it, and you're like, who's making fun of me? Like nobody, like literally nobody, but in your brain you're like, oh, and because I was at nationals 2 weeks ago, and like I was with another coach and we were like going up and down and we were making mistakes because you're just like you're figuring it out if you don't do it every day, right?
Yep.
But it's like that in a nutshell, right? It's like we feel like we're failing when like all you're doing is learning, right? And we talk about this all the time, but
Yeah.
um and you're so right, and I think this is probably one of my overarching shortcomings, and something I always need to remind myself is like, yeah, like I think having a kid has helped me. It's like, yeah, your kid doesn't know where the bread is, right? Like they don't know how to untie the twisty tie, right? And so, but also the hard part about humans is we want to go fast, right? Like people want to be they want to get under the bar their first day and feel like they're successful, and like that both starts with like, well, this is a barbell. It's like um Vince Lombardi, gentlemen, this is a football, right?
Yeah.
Versus, and like so you almost have to cultivate like this beginner's mind, and I think you probably have cultivated this. You still are a beginner every time you touch the bar, but you also know so much that like this is how I'm going to approach that, and like helping people experience that is like paradoxical almost, right? Like you're learning every day type of mentality that I think is really fun, and that's ultimately like why I like training, and I think that's why you like training too. And I think if you get somebody there, the faster somebody gets there, I think the more enjoyable the training journey is, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And that actually reminds me, I got to send you this video. There's an Instagram video Nick Best just shared. I don't know if you know who Nick is. Nick's
Mm-hmm.
massive strongman competitor, super, super successful guy. He showed a clip of him working with Ed Cohn, and Ed's watching him lift, and he's like, "Here, hold on really quick." And Ed gives him a suggestion on how to just optimize his brace a little bit. And he does what Ed says and like picks up the bar and he just starts laughing.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, I've been doing this for so long, and I just laugh at the fact that I can still learn." Like
Yeah.
the legend, okay, let's just say this. the greatest lifter to ever live, just threw a cue out, and you got
Mhm.
to know, like, all right, let me give that a shot. Like, I'm gonna go for it. Nick could have easily been like, man, who do you think you are? Right? I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 30 years. I've been doing this. What I've also found, by the way, is the people who have that kind of mileage, they're the ones that are typically the most open to learning. They're the
Yeah.
nicest
Yeah.
people at the gym. They're the most helpful people at the gym.
Yeah.
But like you still are. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really trying to figure out right now how to get better in a bench shirt. It has eluded me for the last 2 years, really. And I've just like reset all the way down to beginner mode. And
Yeah.
it's been great. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny too because like it's again, it's like there's always the most important thing is that you show up and you do it, right? But then and this is like the weird conundrum of social media, like the social media lithosphere, right? Is like, well, there's all these cues you could inject, right? But like what Ed Cohn sees when he's looking at somebody and what he says and how he communicates it and how that guy receives it, like that's a level of that it takes you have to get there, right? And like for a lot of people when they're first learning to squat, like I really it's crazy. I would just go back to like 16-year-old Dave and just be like, Dave, just box squat. Just freaking box squat because it cleans up so many things and it's in your book, right? It's a variation that in other books they don't talk about because it's like, well, you're supposed to squat with full range of motion or XYZ, right? But it's like you give somebody a target, you create some psychological safety, and they actually learn to stay in their whole foot because they just sit to something, right? Whereas like they're not going to shift as much, and there's a lot of things to that. But like you just help somebody click in their brain, like, did you feel what you just did there? And it's like, kinda. What do you feel like? I came forward. Okay, like, well, keep your whole foot down, or you know, just manage the bar so that doesn't happen. Like, there's all sorts of ways to approach teaching that, right? And they hit at different levels at different times for people. But the fundamental thing is like, we got to get under the bar and practice. That's why I like the practice mindset, right?
well, to me, and this is how I've always looked at it, right? Like, motor learning is motor learning. And I think there's this expectation because strength training or exercise should be simple that we skip steps.
Yeah.
And the analogy I always use is soccer because, like, when you watch soccer, when you watch a soccer practice, they're doing passing drills and they're doing small field drills and they're not always playing live full field things. Yet, when we teach somebody how to squat, the first thing we do is a body weight squat. And then we just start stacking weight onto a bar. And it's like, well, if they're not squatting well, let's find a constraint. Let's find something that actually makes it so they can squat well. And it's
Mhm.
like, well, a body weight squat, we can't load it yet because it's a body weight squat. Well, what about a goblet squat? So there's a counterbalance and it actually looks good, and then they can learn within the constraint. Why
Mhm.
are we only in strength training, only looking at it from the specific big picture item that we're trying to go to and not breaking it down into parts like we do everything else
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
movement? We do that
Yeah.
everywhere else. We do it in every sport. We do it in football. We do it in basketball. We do it in MMA. We do it everywhere. But when
Yeah.
it comes to strength training, it's too simple to actually break down. No,
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
box squat. The two greatest tools to teach somebody how to squat is a goblet squat and a box squat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Like,
I felt bad about doing both of those because it was like, well, that guy doesn't do that, right? And that's like another evolution of stuff. But that's like kind of a good segue into, um, like your own lifting journey. And the first time you were on the podcast, I need to look up what that episode was. We talked about a lot like powerlifting and like your journey, but also a lot of coaching stuff. But like what's changed? Well, how long have you been lifting now at this point? It's like 30 years plus, right?
don't make me feel old, dude.
You just turned 40. Did you just turn 40?
41. I'm 41 now. I'll be 42 in December. So, like, I would say I've been lifting since I was a teenager. I've been lifting seriously since I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
That, and you had him on the podcast, man. Like, I'm honored to be here. You had Jim Wendler on this thing. Like,
Dude, yeah.
I've always thought, Jim's been a massive inspiration for me. like the original 531s, and really a few years before that is when I like really got in to training and training on a regular basis and using weights and that sort of thing. So I would say probably I was probably 20 years old. So it's really been 21 years of like consistent strength training.
Yeah. So what's like the major evolution that like from when you started to now, like in a like because I feel like there's almost two parts to that, right? That like there was stuff you did when you first started that was actually good, and then you go through the rabbit hole and you're like that, and then you're back to that. Like for me, a lot of it I just think about was like, yeah, when I first was exposed to it, it was just like, yeah, it's practice. Like, there's no secrets type of stuff, right? And then I like went down the rabbit hole of there's like secrets, right? And there are secrets, but like that's called doing it for 10 years, right? Like that's when
Yeah.
you learn the secrets. And then like, but then there were also stuff that I was like doing like not wrong, but like that was just kind of dumb, right? Do you have stuff like that you look back and you're like, and this is also, I think this is also one of my big points is like, I'm not myself if I don't go through that journey. So I am grateful for that journey, right? Like I'm not a good coach if I don't do some of that stupid shit. But I also have to allow people to do that stupid stuff to some extent, or you kind of have to allow people to make mistakes. We're just trying to like narrow the field a little bit, right? Like not make as big of ones or not go off track as much. That's how I think about it anyway.
So I would say the biggest shift that I've had is that early on in my lifting career, I learned through experience and now I learn through analysis.
Mm,
So I will tell anybody that'll listen, I did all the dumb shit so you don't have to. Like you look at the internet now and they're like, oh, that program is stupid. That program's done. Smolov, which like, and I'm gonna talk about Smolov Jr. I'm talking about the whole thing. I ran 4 times.
yeah.
Four. One of them, I modified it for my front squat because I was competing in weightlifting at the time and I wanted my front squat to go up. So I've done like the crescendo of stupid programming that people look back on now and they're like, that's so dumb. But I learned a ton from it. The first time I went through it, I got hurt. I hurt
Hmm.
bad. Um, so that sucked. Figured out how to modify it, figured out how to play with it, figured out how I responded to certain things, how certain things would feel, how a training split where you're literally squatting pretty much every single day, like what that does to you.
Hmm.
Even from a nutrition standpoint, like the amount of food I thought I had to eat versus what I actually had to eat was
Hmm.
crazy. You could have easily put it in and been like, this is my workload, and put it in your if it fits your macros calculator from back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And it would have been probably 700 calories short for how much A, I was putting into the gym, and B, how many steps I was putting into the clinic every day.
Yeah.
So I learned through doing,
Yeah.
and I would experience it, and I would take that stuff. And, at the time, I had a part-time job at a gym. I was coaching people, I was training people, I was doing that stuff. So I did it through experimentation and applying it to people and applying it to myself. I did that for so long, and I've looked at so many different programs and experienced so many different systems. And between conjugate and DUP and linear and like all these things that people like to nerd out about. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I've seen those things. Now I can look at a program and I can analyze it. I can look at a decision making process by somebody and I can analyze it. I don't have to live it anymore. And
Hmm.
that's like the big piece where the evolution came is I can even look at my own programming over the next 6 months and be like, all right, cool. These are the things I'm going to need. This is where it's going to be tough. This is where it's going to feel this sort of way. This is where I'm going to have to make adjustments like this. And then it allows me to then make even finer adjustments every single day. Because before, I'll never forget this, Dave. Oh my God. Me and the guys, with my original training crew, when we like really got into powerlifting, right? We
Hmm.
like really got into powerlifting. All of us hired one guy to do our programming. And we were I think we were 10 days out from the competition and we looked at the deadlift day that we had to do. And I think all of us were like, how are we going to live? How are we going to survive? It was like three different heavy variations of deadlift plus it took us 3.5 hours to get through that workout. It was awful, but
Yeah.
we just bore through it. You know what I mean? Like talked smack. I think we went through 2 rounds of pre-workout. I think like gummy bears, Sour Patch Kids, all of it. Like we just went completely nuts. It was literally just the three of us in the gym, and it was absolutely terrible. We barely survived. It's probably the sorest I've ever been. And you guessed it, 10 days later, the meat sucked for all of us. It was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Um, but I adjusted strictly by just like, okay, I'm gonna put the work in
Hmm.
and see what happens.
Hmm.
Now I can look at it and say, I've done that before, not a good idea.
Yeah.
And it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The whole internet's gonna be like, well, yeah, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But if
Do you
I
think
really do think people eventually have to live on the wild side a little bit.
that's what I'm gonna say. Like, I think you cannot learn via analysis. And I actually think this is like kind of a meta lesson too. Like, you cannot learn via analysis and you cannot act versus like analysis and analyzing the situation until you have learned via experience, right?
Mhm.
The goal is just better course correction and better understanding of, principles. I always say, I just call it the three P's, right? Principles oriented around progression, a lot in line with people's preferences. So like, what do you want to do? Like, what is your goal? If your goal is to be a power lifter, right? That's your preference. Even inside that, that looks like a lot of things, but like, yeah, like the hope is that, like, okay, this is how I look at it too. Like, we'll go to parenting. I can't really teach my kid anything, right? I can help them learn, right? I can set up the experience, can create to some degree some constraints, but like, when they're a 16-year-old kid, my wife's probably not gonna but like, I can't stop them from having a beer at a party, right? I can't stop them because if I try to, that's where shit goes awry, right? That's
Yeah.
like, it's the same thing, right? So it's the same thing when in the weight room. Like, as a coach, you're trying to guide people, and I think some people are better at being guided than others, right? But like, there is no learning without the experience. But then once you've had an experience, you can look at something similar and be like, okay, that doesn't seem like a good idea. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to do this. So that's where I go with it.
Well, and there's another piece too, because people also learn better through storytelling.
Hmm.
They also learn better through an exchange of experience.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things here. You and I both, we're both research nerds. We both sit and we'll read papers and we'll analyze literature and we'll do all that kind of stuff, and it's great. If I tell somebody the statistics behind maxing out your deadlift 3 days before a meet, they're going to be like, okay, coach, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But if I tell them the story of where I did this stupid workout, dude, it was so bad. Like, you ever get that moment where you're like showering after a workout and you reach behind you to like grab something and your whole lat cramps? It pulled me to the ground. I was
Yeah.
like on flat on my back in the shower because I was just wiped.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
tell that story, they're going to be like, "Oh, okay, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen." That's crazy. So there's also a piece to this where you have to actually have the experience to be able to tell the story to have somebody in the future
Yeah.
learn from that thing and not always have it to be this very dry statistical analysis because some people will learn that way, some people won't learn that way. And one of the biggest things that I hear now is like all these kids going off program and maxing out. And I'm like, well, how are you communicating to them not to do that?
Yeah.
Are you literally
Yeah.
just telling them, well, your fatigue rating will spike and this will be, or are you actually telling them a crazy story about how that like absolutely decimated you for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And they
Well,
go, oh, I got it, coach. I understand.
Well, and like so there's two things, and I want to come back to this just before we but I think this. So I want to ask you a question oriented around long-term planning and day-to-day performance and fluctuations, and how you think about programming in that regard. So I want to come back to that, but there's also just there's so much of you're doing it wrong, right? So, and it's I don't think hitting a oh, I love the memes out right now that are bodybuilders achieving failure, and it's they're super happy, and powerlifters doing failure, and they're devastated because they're worried about the fatigue, right? And it's so there's just also different goals and phases of training type of thing, and mentalities. I also think there's some people who psychologically do not manage that, man, I missed that, and it's dude, they freaking ruminated on it, and then the next time they go to approach it, it's that has physical consequences, right? Then there's other people who's I'm gonna go lift it again, right? But that's also the art of coaching and individualization of a program to a person, right? And communication of that thing. But like I think the cool thing about training is there's a lot of freaking ways to do it, right? The hard thing about training is there's a lot of ways to do it. And we have to figure out I said this, I think, to a buddy this morning that I got coffee with. I'm having the most fun training that I have had probably since I was 20 or 21, or probably when I actually discovered 531 and was doing it in conjunction with CrossFit, because I was lifting in a way that I understood and could progress, and I was still running and doing stuff that I enjoyed, right? And then I just went down the meta of you're not doing it right? And so I've kind of pulled back into my own thing right now, which is fine because I have a 6 month or 8 month old kid, right? But I'm also making progress in ways that I haven't made progress in a long time. So it's fun. But that's also hard for people, right? To find that level of balance, right? So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but then I also want you to come back to, because that's almost this is my phase of training right now, right? But then there is the long-term planning, if you for somebody like you who's gonna remain competitive, and people who want to be competitive with the day-to-day, what do I do type of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I think the analogy that comes to mind for me is really all of this stuff. You mentioned you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I actually don't believe in that at all. There isn't really a wrong. There may be not best fit for a particular person. So I like to put this on a spectrum, and it really comes down to how close do you want to fly to the sun?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the reasons why even to this day, West Side and that whole philosophy and really just the aura around it is still admired by people is that those guys were limit testers. Those guys
Yeah.
and girls were limit testers. They didn't want to fly close to the sun. They wanted to stand on the sun while giving you the middle finger. Like
Yeah.
that was the aura. They wanted to blast past every limit and they were just absolute limit testers. What that comes with is flying close to the sun, right?
Yeah.
Like that has more risks. It has injuries. It has battles. It has fatigue. It has making crazy ass decisions. It has all that stuff, right? So you have to decide where on that you want to be. Like, how competitive do you want to be? How far do you want to push this thing? How close do you want to fly to the sun? Because the closer you get to that, the more risk you open yourself up to. So when people are like, well, you're doing that wrong, you're going to get hurt. Well, first off, how about we not just tell somebody they're going to get hurt? I've had
Yeah.
so many people tell me I'm going to get hurt, and I have not actually had a training interrupting injury in over 10 years. I'm doing great. I feel awesome. Well, you're going to get hurt doing that. Not, not by my track record right now, guys. But I do want to fly close to the sun. I understand that this week alone, I've taken a max heavy triple box squat. I've taken a max three board, three rep in my bench shirt, and I've taken a max three rep block pull. When I worked out today, I felt like I got hit by a truck. So I made adjustments down on things a little bit. Okay, you just make the easy thing. But I also know like that fatigue cost is going to be really high. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make it really clear to all. What about fatigue? I don't care. I'm going to sleep more. I'm going to eat more. I'm going to chill out, probably watch some Netflix tonight or play some video games with my
Dude, I
kids.
just got like 5 video games I'm excited to play.
Yeah,
Mary's
I'm
going,
good, man.
my wife's going away to hang out with her sister next week, and so it's like I say that I'm gonna try to play video games, but I probably won't. But
Dude, Death
uh
Stranding 2 is out. Like, let's go. Come on. I
dude,
got plenty of time to walk around on Australia. I'm
yeah,
good. But
yeah,
like, I think that's the big thing. When you're looking at it from a risk standpoint, I think people look at it, you're doing it wrong because there's injury risk, or you're doing it wrong because XYZ. It's like, no, if you want to recreationally lift, I don't see a point of you maxing out every week.
yeah,
I don't see a point of you pushing those limits.
yeah,
I don't see a point of certain training methodologies. But if you want to compete at a really high level, we're going to have to dial some of that stuff in, and you are going to have to take some risks.
yeah, yeah. My
And but
father-in-law, so my father-in-law is 68, 67 or 68. I think he's 67. He's been lifting for three. I love my father-in-law because he's just like, oh, like when I got him to lift, he's like, what do I need? And he goes and he buys a decent rack,
all the stuff.
good
Yep.
barbell, and enough weights for him to, and it's like he's like, I don't care about my 3 rep max. Like I don't, and then I'm like, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stay like 4-ish, 3 to 4-ish reps away from failure most of the time. And you're gonna like, and so I kind of exposed him to a few different things. The one hit that he has latched onto is 5-3-1. It makes sense to him. The week to week progression with the decrease and like with maybe an AMRAP set of something near the end if he feels good. Like it's kind of these optional things. It's like because I exposed him to basically kind of like double progression type of things, and
Yep.
he didn't mind that, but it was just like it's just a little less clear. He also loved that like because I gave him a copy of 531 and he's like, "Oh, I can go calculate my percentage base max." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. If that helps you." And I think that's one of the things that helped me too is it took the emphasis, like I like setting PRs at various rep ranges. Like especially like again, right now like
Oh, it's so much fun.
I'll do
It's so
another
much fun.
I'll do another powerlifting meet down the road. I'm a CrossFitter who doesn't like CrossFit is like I guess how my overarching thing, right? I want to do like 10 things kind of decently, right? And again,
Yep.
not that decently, right? But um and then I think I showed him, I gave him starting strength and he liked the visuals of that, but it was just that's so much of it is push, right? It is push. Like that really is what that book makes you feel like you have to do. And
Yeah.
it's not that you don't have to push, it's that you have to push in a way that is fitting your life and your constraints and what you want. And then I gave him 5-3-1 and he's like, this just makes sense to me. And I also, if I don't feel good, I just do 5 reps. If I feel good, I try to push for 2 more. Like you said, add a rep,
Yep.
right? And he's gotten so much stronger in the past 3 years. And it's been a relatively smooth buildup. It's just the patience thing for most of us, right?
Yeah. And it
Um,
keeps it engaging. Like there is that objective measure. You should have to check out Fifth Set too by Swede Burns.
all right, I'll look that. I like
That's
that.
another really good one. I not the first edition. I think the second one. Um, but that's a great one. It's
Oh yeah, you told me
somewhat,
about Sweet. Okay, I like
yeah,
that.
somewhat similar to 531,
Yeah,
especially with the AMRAP pieces and the way it progresses.
yeah,
But I love that program.
yeah.
It's a phenomenal one.
Well, and so let's go to the kind of the macro orient and again there's kind of two aspects of this. I think the human need for a plan and for a vision is high. I think and I think you've talked to John Keeley, right? You guys had
Yeah.
John Keeley on the like basically kind of debunked, and it's for sport teams, right? I think, but kind of debunked the phasic nature of periodization in that it is like working as we're saying it's working, right? Which
Mhm.
to some degree you almost intuitively have to kind of be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because like after a certain point, like we know that you're not hypertrophying a muscle, you know, in 6 weeks, right? And it's even though it might be like 8 weeks or 12, like it's just adaptation is messier, right? Also, like that one guy was in that power block and nothing happened for him, and that other guy shot up like crazy, right? And that other guy had a really good strength adaptation. Like, so it's like, what's going on there, right?
Well, and it's because it's treated specifically like a math equation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, human beings are not a simple math equation. Like, imagine taking a math equation and putting a blender in the middle of it. That's what it's like working with humans. So, and I do think there is kind of an in between. Him and Mike T had a great conversation. This is an older one, just around periodization as well. There's concepts to pull from it and be like, okay, that makes sense because you want to plan,
Yeah.
right? But I think what people expect is that they expect the plan to just go XYZ and not go A R P O B Z,
Yeah.
which is the issue because they think it's going to be a straight line and it ends up not being a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and so somebody you talked about so this is a running joke with John that like he one time did this bench set and it was like he did 505 and then he went to 515 and then you're like 515 is all you need. And I as somebody who is not gonna bench 515 probably ever, which is fine. Maybe I shouldn't give up on my dreams, but it's like all you need is 515 was a running joke. But I asked John you know like he knows kind of what he's gonna hit on a given day. Probably like you would probably say like plus or minus 5% type of thing, right? Especially
Yeah.
when you get warming up, you're like, I think this is in the cards. And somebody else who I think I've heard say stuff like that is Austin Baraki of Barbell Medicine, who's like, yeah, as I'm warming up. And I think a lot of people do this intuitively as they're warming up, they start to feel like where they're gonna be for their top working set or whatever, right? But there's also an element of the brain as a predicting machine, right? And
Mhm.
how you feel psychologically when you're confident and you put it in your brain that you're going to do something versus when you're not confident and you're trying to do the thing anyway. The amount of people when they don't know what's loaded on the barbell, and I'm not talking, and we're going to get to you, but I'm talking more beginner to intermediates when they don't know what's loaded on the barbell and they just go execute, perform very well, right?
Mhm.
Versus when they know and they're afraid of that weight, right? And that's a tricky thing because you can't be like, yeah, this is, it's not that it's 50 pounds more than they thought. It's like 20 or 10 or, you know, uh, or you just see how the bar's moving and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna keep loading you up. Because that is one of the advantage of like being there. But how does how does your mind, how do you get do you think that's a skill that you sought to develop or that lifting made you develop that skill? Does that make sense?
I think it was both actually. I think it was intentional, but also like lifting for an extended period of time taught that. So I'm going to give you exactly why, at least for me, where I feel like I got this from. Number one, I've been lifting long enough that I have had to work around a lot of injuries. I've had to work around making a really terrible decision deadlifting. It wasn't the deadlift, okay? It was the terrible decision that
It
I
was
made
that's a
deadlifting.
really good caveat that I think that should immediately be turned into content. It wasn't the deadlift, it was the terrible decision to do the deadlift or XYZ, right?
I made a horrible decision after like a slight mishap of like I'll just repeat that day and it was bad.
Yeah.
Like uh pretty nasty back strain that lasted a long time, taught me how to pull sumo,
Yeah.
right? Started playing around with foot uh, widths in the squat. I had squatted one way in lifters for an extended period of time. I got stuck there. I hit a plateau. I started experimenting with different foot widths and shoes and stuff like that. And I started experimenting with different grip widths and different variations, very specifically the reverse grip bench. And one of the things that I found really quickly is like I could get within a matter of weeks within a pretty close range to what my expectations were when it came to the weight I was lifting. And I started doing that for so long. Um, I mentioned I got hurt doing small love. I'll still occasionally get an aggravated hip from that injury. Like it'll just pinch. I know the adjustment to make. I also know that that stance is just as strong as all my other stances.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like all those expectations are now that my performance is going to be equal across almost all things. So I discovered that piece like, wow, this new thing actually catches up pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, Great, like that's good to know. But then also I got really intentional of like, wow, this gives me so many options. Like if something happens with a weird squat during a competition and I'm ready to pull conventional for deadlift and things are a little funky, I know how to pull sumo. If I have the very first time I benched 200 kilos in competition, it was close grip because that was my strongest grip
Yeah. Yeah.
through that last training block.
Yeah.
So I got really intentional with thinking about like, okay, cool. If everything's kind of here, then I can set my expectations across the board and then be really intentional with going into a workout thinking this is the range. And then as I got moving and made my adjustments based off how I felt, that I could then dial that in even closer and be able to say, okay, like this is with a high level of accuracy, I think this is where I'm at today. And then I just use RPE as a gauge to actually be tight with that.
Hmm.
And then you just track, right?
Yeah.
Then you just stack up success.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. Like you said, the 515, like I had an RPE goal. I had an idea where it was going to be. Those two matched up.
Yeah.
Am I going to do what I did when I was 20 and say, well, let me throw 10 more pounds on? No.
Yeah.
Met
Yeah.
the expectation, hard rep. I'm good.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and well, and like there's also certain amount of controlled, because I've seen you fail a lift, right?
Mhm.
But it's also controlled in a manner that like you don't feel like it's gonna break you, right? Whereas that's the tricky part that a lot of, and I think this goes at every level. It's like, man, you know this the fraying, like the saying, like if there's any doubt, there is no doubt. That's like one of my favorite freaking sayings, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it's like, but there's also an element of like I have to try to exert a ton, right? And like I think where a lot of people are in their early stage of their lifting journey with stuff is like they have the doubt and they proceed anyway in a way, in a manner that doesn't help them build confidence later, right? You know what I mean? Like if you fail in a way that helps you build confidence, that's different than you see somebody like they're like, I remember the John Bros videos of like John Bros like hitting like 14 snatch attempts,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Right. And then he'd hit it. And I think there's like, I always kind of think that's, it's like, it's cool, but like if he did not, he has the mindset oriented around this is what I do to get here, right? Versus somebody who's just throwing rep after rep that's just getting worse and worse type of thing, right? So it's a weird almost paradox there that like you've developed this, like either this is how hard I push, and sometimes I maybe fly closer to the sun, and then this is also an opportunity to fail and learn something in a way that is safe, right?
Well, it's the exploration piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, like weightlifting is always an interesting thing. You bring up John Bros, the old Cal Strength videos. Gosh, John North, just him and Donnie Schenkel going back and forth. You want to talk,
Yeah.
anybody wants to have a good time watching like old school YouTube videos, go
Yeah.
back and watch that. That stuff was an absolute blast. Um, I was subscribed. I watched those bad boys every day. It was so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But I think this is where, and I don't want to get too soapboxy here. This is where I think people take the actual practice of specificity within movement and within competition, and they isolate it far too much. So if you're looking at the complexity of sport, like, yes, there are sport specific drills, there are specific adaptations to impose demands. I get all those things. But also, if you put yourself in a bunch of different situation and environments, you're also able to make specific decisions based off what's necessary within the sport.
Yeah.
So if all you do is explore your competition stance squat, your competition grip bench press, your competition stance deadlift, and you never have any other experience outside of those, you do get 100% the physiological specific adaptations that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But you rob yourself of the ability to think and move like an athlete who can make sport specific decisions because you have decision making process and experience outside of that specific movement realm.
Yeah.
So that's where you become like, and we're talking about a simple sport.
Yeah.
People joke, powerlifting is like what people do to prepare for sports. Like I get that.
Yeah.
I understand it completely. But you can still take an athlete mentality into it and be adaptable to be successful. And
Yeah.
not just that, do it for a really long time.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
people that I see get locked into certain things, they're the ones that do it for 3 to 5 years. And then it's like, well, what's left?
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
they burn out from it and they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And I hate seeing that.
Well, and it's because it's like it's kind of the same stuff as like youth sports. It's just applied to adults. It's like if I just do the exact thing that they do, it's like, well, you're just hoping for survivorship bias. And like the thing about survivorship bias is like that's taking a large population sample and weaning it down to like the 10 survivors, who was the Dmitry Klokov of the 500 kids that started that camp, right?
Yeah.
Like versus I think the utility of even just I've recommended the again Austin Baraki's like how to modify lifting with pain barbell medicine article. It's like, okay, well, first and foremost, specific modification. It's like this is what you're just describing in a microcosm. Specific modifications to the range of motion, the volume, the intensity of the specific thing that's hurting you, right?
Mhm.
But the next thing he mentions, or maybe the third thing, is more variation in your training, right? Go around the problem and develop. And I also think I just think about like Mike to share, where his squat stance has been in different eras of his training. It's different, right? And that's just the nature of like, I mean, you build muscle, you move differently, leverages kind of change, right? And that's okay. Like that's literally even just where I feel, even where you feel comfortable squatting, right,
Yeah.
can totally change. And then that also might mean eventually you have to like go to a place you don't feel comfortable squatting and just try to get comfortable there, right? Which is really wild, but like that's super powerful, right? So especially in something like powerlifting, depending on and I depending on equipped, this is just my overarching like observation of it. It's like, even in powerlifting, people move super differently, and so it's like there's some amount of exploration of your own style inside of that stuff, right? And like I think people struggle with that because they just get locked into this is how I'm supposed to do it. For the longest time, I thought how Rich Froning squatted was how I needed to squat, and then I realized like I'm not Rich Froning, right? Like, so anyway,
Yeah. And then everybody sees Konstantin Konstantinov's deadlift and they're like, what?
yeah, yeah.
How is that? And he was bulletproof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deadlift 900 pounds.
Yeah.
Bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like
What
this.
would you say are there like um where I wanted to like kind of finish this conversation is for the okay, because we've meandered around, which I like. I think that's fun. For the average person who is intimidated by the gym, there's more and more information about the benefits of the gym, right? There's never been any more information about how good the gym is for you right now.
Mm.
But what has the gym given you that you don't think you would get anywhere else?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Um, because the gym has actually been to be real with you, the gym's actually developed my entire life up to this point. Um, I decided years ago to go all in on it when it comes to like what I built my life because I love powerlifting. Um, I want to see powerlifting. I want to see people in the gym, not just for powerlifting, but I want to see people actively trying to get stronger all the time. So for me, like, man, I would say the first thing is discipline and work ethic. I think it
Mm,
locked it in. A really good example. So my undergrad was pretty strenuous when it came to what was asked of us going through athletic training school. There was an expectation. We had like a 20-year run of 100% pass rate on the first time through the certification exam. And I'll never forget, Pat Lamboni was our head athletic trainer. And I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, right? We had a couple kids complaining about, us possibly being free labor for the school. And he was like, 6 a.m. meeting. We had them Friday mornings, every Friday, 6 a.m. Whole staff, right? All the students. He's like, guess what? You are,
Mm,
and I don't care.
yeah.
And for some of us, we were like, hell yeah, Pat. And others were like, well, I'm out of the program. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember that's when weightlifting, really strength training in general, really became an anchor for me because it was really the only time that I had my own time. So I had treatments first thing in the morning from 6 to 8, and then I would have class from like 8 to 2, and then I would eat in between, and then I would go from at 2 o'clock, we'd head back over to the athletic training room to get stuff prepped for practice. We'd cover practices till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And then like that's when we were finally off. That was Monday through Saturday, outside of class part on Saturday, right? Like the only day we had free was Sunday pretty much. And that's if you weren't traveling. If you were
Yeah.
traveling, you were typically traveling back on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we had that all through college. And after 7 o'clock, it was me, my buddy Will, and a couple other people. We'd go lift. And that was
Mm,
like, that was our time. That was the only time we
yeah.
really had for ourselves. And that became, in grad school, that was it. Like even now, like the the
Yeah.
the gym, the space in my house, like that's my space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, it's my time. And it kept me disciplined. It kept my work ethic sharp, and it really did. Like if it wasn't for that, so many things in my life would be different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. I mean, yeah, like it was funny because you mentioned Jim Windler. Like he's like I had him on the podcast and I joked about, and it was a joke, but it was also a question about how the amount of money he lost by people making copies of his book and putting up online and XYZ. And he's like, oh man, like he gave a really funny answer. But he's like, training's given me so much that I can't even like be mad about it. And like, so just to think about like losing millions of dollars, or let's say even hundreds of thousands of dollars of XYZ, like, but you're still just grateful for the thing that you're doing. Like, and yeah, man, I think it really can be, you mentioned in the book how the emotional and mental benefits of it, right? Like anymore in our day and age, I really think so many things boil down to how can I get present? How can I be right here now? And you're not always going to be that way in the gym, but when I am, it's awesome. And like you have to give yourself those opportunities more and more. And I think if and when the gym becomes that for you, it's so powerful. And like you don't want to not do it, right?
Have you
And
ever
it
heard of
doesn't.
the three place theory?
No, you need three places.
You need three places,
Yeah.
right?
What are they?
For most people, it's home. That's their
Yeah.
first place.
Yeah.
By default, the second one also becomes work.
Yeah.
And then everybody needs a third place, whether that's church, whether it's a gym,
Yeah.
whether it's the bar, whether like it's something. People
Yeah.
self-select into what that thing is.
Yeah.
I just like went all in on it being the
Yeah.
gym. And the really interesting piece is like the workplace has changed multiple times. But for me, the gym has never changed.
Yeah.
The gym has changed less than my home has changed.
Yeah.
We've moved. I got married. I had kids. I had all this stuff. But I've had the gym right there
Yeah. Yeah.
for now over 21 years of my life. And it's been
Yeah.
there. And it has been stable. And it has been awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just been life changing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother. I've been saying hell yeah, brother a lot. I love it.
HYB.
HYB. I love it. All right, John, thank you so much for being on here. Where do people find you?
Easiest places on Instagram, at John Rebuild Stronger. It's nice and easy. I believe it's John underscore rebuild
I was
stronger.
gonna say it's John underscore rebuild stronger.
Yeah.
If you type in John rebuild stronger, it'll come up.
You can
I will
just type
link.
John Flagg and it'll come up too.
Yeah,
But I respond to all messages in there. So if you want to hit me up, chat, ask any questions, I'm an open book. You can hit me up right there.
I will post. Where should people find your book?
They can get on Amazon. Please, if you buy it on Amazon, leave an Amazon review. It helps out a ton. Or you can buy it directly from Human Kinetics, which is my publisher.
I will put both links in the show notes for people here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. But John, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. This has been a great chat. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, buddy.
Peace, buddy.
See ya.